My name is Torsten Overgaard. I'm a Danish photographer. I travel the world taking photographs and teaching photography. Today I'm going to take you into the time machine. We're going to go back to old Leica film cameras and we're going to make them digital. So this is going to be exciting and it's going to be a little bit nerdy. Here I have the Leica R8 and I also have, well, I have a film roll. We're not going to need it because we're going to make it digital. And I have here Leica R9 film camera. The R8 camera is one that came out in 1996, and in 2002 came the R9. They're very similar. The only difference between those two film cameras is that the R9 that came later has a lock here, so you don't automatically change to aperture, priority to manual and so on, so you have to unlock it. And I have a picture counter here, and that's more or less the difference between the two cameras, else they're identical. These cameras I have used a lot with the slide film. So back in the 90s and beginning of 2000 I was shooting Fuji Astrea slide film mostly. So that means I would put in a roll of film with 36 pictures. I'll go out and take some portraits or do reportages. And when the film was done, I would rewind it. And when I came back home, I would send it to the lab and I would pick up the slide film next day. I would scan it in an Imacon scanner and clean it for dust and everything. That was the way it was done. And slide film is kind of what have the best quality. So I was late to go into digital. Basically, I had a Leica Digilux 2 that I used for some stuff, but not really serious stuff, in the beginning of the 2000s. And I did see that other photographers had Nikon, digital and so on for sports events. And it was like, it's always, with press photographers, it's always speed. So you would have one of the first Nikons that came out with digital would be one that you could go to the football match at the stadium on Sunday and you could take photos and you could transmit them wirelessly to the newspaper so that they could make it for deadline. And that's mainly the reason a lot of the press photographers would use cameras depending on speed. And that's also how in the past we had motor winders, the faster motor winder and the bigger rolls of film and everything, all kinds of tricks and autofocus to make it fast. So speed have always been an interesting thing. Not so much for me. I like the image quality and the soul of an image. So anyways, I used these cameras and other Leica film cameras to shoot slide film. And I was kind of waiting for when will there be a digital solution that looks like film. And that actually happened in 2003. That Leica came out with a digital back for these cameras. And this is a film camera, and this one also looks exactly like a film camera with a motor winder. The R8 and R9 are really cool cameras. I mean, they're chunky, but they're really nice to work with, and you have a good grip on them, and they just work like tanks. They're beautiful. But this camera also have a digital back. And this is a digital back that Leica came out with in 2003. They didn't actually start to deliver to 2004, 2005. But this one is a digital back that they made together with Kodak and Imacon. Kodak, of course, knows how to make color film and know how to deal with colors. So that was like their area, and also they were the one actually who invented the digital sensor, digital photography. So Leica worked with Kodak, and it's always been like almost like a mantra with Leica that the last real look of photography we know is the Kodachrome. So the sensor here is tuned towards that look of Kodachrome, and Imacon is the company that was in Copenhagen that made the high-end scanner. So if you were in a museum or you were a high-end photographer, you would have an Imacon scanner to scan your slide films. Or it could be originals. Even you could put, in the big scanners, you could put original drawings and paintings into them. So Leica, Imacon and Kodak made this thing together. And when it came out, the idea was like, now you can have a film camera and then you take off the back and you put on a digital back. and then you take some digital and you take it off and put back a film again. That was kind of the idea, because somehow nobody really believed that that film is going to be dead. And there was even at Leica in 2002, 2003, they had a CEO that he said in an interview that no, film is superior. We're going to keep making film cameras, because when people are done with this digital stuff, they're going to come back to film because it is superior, and we're going to develop new types of film that's going to be much higher resolution, better colors, more dynamic range, and so on. As we know now, that's not how it went, and that's also why Leica made this digital back. There were some changes in Leica, so they came with the digital back. There was like a request from the customers, you could say. This is Genius, and I have two of them. So I have this camera I have used extensively for fashion weeks. I've been doing reportages in Africa. I'm doing tons of portraits, product shots and everything with this camera. It is beautiful. It's a CCD sensor. It's 10 megapixels. It's also a crop sensor. So my favorite lens that I would use for most of my photography would be the 80mm Summilux here. And it's an 80mm 1.4. And it has very much a look like the Noclux in the Leica M series. Beautiful. So you could say as soon as I went from slide film to digital, I had a crop, so this was suddenly 105mm instead of 80mm. Didn't matter, I would just step back, further away, the look would be the same. So, and the R lenses here that goes on the Leica R system are amazing. You could say the M system of Leica, that is the one that came from 1925, that's when it started, have small lenses, and they're amazing and they're high quality. The R lenses are better, always considered to be better, just simply by the fact that it's more glass, it's easier to make quality optics, the bigger size you can deal with. So all this goes on this, and I have had an amazing time with this one. So then in 2009, the Leica M9 came out. That was the first full-frame M camera, and I got one of those and I used it, and after a while I realized I can actually do with the small M9 the same as I could do with this. Actually, a lot of the stuff had more freedom to it, and that's how I went with the M camera series from them. And then this one almost got into retirement. Then something funny happened, because 2 years ago I was in Porto, in Portugal. I was doing my workshop, and then I visited the Leica store in Portugal, and there's also a Leica gallery in Porto. And I walk around, and in a corner somewhere I see they have second-hand equipment. And up there they had, on the shelf, they had a Leica R9 with digital back. And I asked, how much is it? And they said, it's 3,000. And I said, I'll take it. And I got this thing, they packed it for me, and I picked it up and I took it home. And I come home and I'm wondering like why I'm doing, I already have one, now I have two, and I don't really use it anymore. The only answer to that is just that it's such a beautiful setup, this DMR. So it was like seeing an old friend. I said, okay, you're gonna come with me, and that's what happened. So today I will give you the exclusive experience that I'm actually gonna put on a digital back, so you can see here how Genius is this system. And what happened back then in 2003, 2004, 2005, when you got this, you would get a big box like this with your digital back, and this is the one, and I actually haven't used it yet. It's not an unboxing video because I don't like unboxing. This is the manual. We're gonna keep it here just in case, and then there's a warranty card and stuff. I'm sure there's no warranty on this one anymore. Here comes a charger for the battery. I don't need that one right now. Then comes here a battery. I'll get back to those. And then comes what looks like a motor winder for the camera, but this is a digital module, so it's a little bit different. And then comes the actual digital module. There's also some funny things here. There's a firewire cable. This is a mobile charger for, you can charge the batteries in the car. And then see what else we have here. That's about it. Well, there's a new screen here because it's a crop sensor, so you have to change the match screen in the camera. So it has like a line for what's going to be in the picture. That's basically what is in this box, more or less. Put it down here. So let's open. This is the real gold mine. This is the digital back. And let's see if there's anything in this pocket. No, there's nothing in this pocket. So here it is. This is the beauty. And you could say it's pretty simple. It's kind of compact. If you look at how big the camera is, this is that you have a whole digital back here is kind of amazing. So what I would do, we're actually not going to use the manual. So what you would do here, you would open the camera here, and you can see everything is filming here, just like the old days. And then we have to change the back, so I can just take off. This one is like watch straps that you just can press this one. See if we can do that. There we go. Off it goes. We can put it away. We're not going to need that anymore. And now I just have an open film back. And the next thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to put on the digital back. And it is literally made that the idea is that you go to Africa and then you shoot some tigers, and then you take off your digital back and you put in film again and put on your film back, and then you take off your film and then you put on your digital. So it's kind of made in a sneaky way that you have this one, you just put it in one side here, and then you press this one, and then see, it presses this one in. See if I can find where it's supposed to be. I need to look at it from this side. There we go. Now it sits there. So now I have the digital back, then I just have to remove this cover that protects. There we go. And here I have the sensor. And you can see, whoopsie. So this is how the sensor looks and the whole back, and I have digital contacts here that means these contacts, or electronic contacts. And that's one thing I will say, is that if you have a camera like this, it's old, so suddenly things stops working. And one thing you can always do with stuff like this is that you can clean the contacts with alcohol. You can also take a piece of metal and just scratch it, so if there's something sitting on it, it's going to work again. I tried that several times, something stopped working, you clean the contacts, it works again. So this is basically how it's done. I'm just going to close this. There we go. Now it's closed, and then I have more contacts here. So now I have to put on this one, and see, to do that I first have to remove the battery compartment here, and it's this one. There we go. So this is actually where there's battery sitting for the camera, and it's also a hand grip. This one, I don't need it anymore. I'll put it over here. And then that gives space. I can actually attach this one. And there's lots of contacts all over the place here for this. And then see how I can fit this one on. It should be fairly easy, but you never know. See, how does this go? There we go. And then I'm going to screw it on. It's just like a motor winder, basically. And then that's my camera. Then that was the protective thing. I don't need that one anymore. This is actually the old match screen. So the one sitting in here actually is the new one that have the crop factor. If it wasn't there, I would have to go in here and remove this one. You would just take, there's a tool here to grab it with, and also to mount the new one. I don't have to do that because it's already in there. And then let's just put on a 6 lens for the front of it, the 81.4, and then I can put in the battery here. There we go. So now this is ready. It weighs not a ton, but it does weigh something. It gives you good, it's good. It's almost like going to the gym using this camera. And now I can turn on the camera, and I simply just go on the dial here. I would go to, for example, manual, and then I can see it blinks. Here comes, yeah, it's beautiful. So here we have it. Now there's live in this display down here. that gives how many pictures are left on the card and the format and everything. And up here would be the preview. And I actually do have also here, I have a menu here where I can go in and set sharpness and different things. It's not really something I need to use a lot. One of the funny things with this camera, I don't know how funny it is if you're like photographing and you're running out of battery, you pop out the battery and you put in a new battery. When you do that, it actually resets the settings sometimes, but it always resets the date back to 2000. So that's a thing to watch out for. You should turn off the camera first, which you do on this one. You just turn it off and then you take out the battery, put in a new one. So somehow it doesn't have any memory in the camera, or battery memory. It's one of those things you just you learn to deal with this camera. And now if I take a picture, I can go to 1/25th of a second because I'm on manual. And then I take a picture here. That's how it sounds. And you can hear from the sound that it actually, the shutter goes up and the sensor in here gets exposed to light that comes through the lens. And then the film rewinds, but there's no film in it. And it's just part of it that, well, you put on a digital back, you pretend it's kind of like a film camera, it's going to behave that way. It's going to even use battery to rewind the film. It's just part of it, and it gives this interesting sound. So I remember when I used this a lot in the press pit. So you're standing with the other photographers that have digital cameras that makes different sounds, and then they hear this sound and it's like, are you shooting film? And then you'll have to explain, no, it's actually digital, but it's a film camera. Very funny. And of course, this is all manual focus, and the camera does have aperture priority, program mode and everything, so it can do a lot of stuff. But that's basically how this thing works. Let us talk about the batteries. This camera is either the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen or the most genius thing you've ever seen. To me, it's like, I don't know what it is, but the pictures from this thing is beautiful. The problem with this one is that Leica only made 3,000 of them. They announced in 2003 we're going to do this, and they did them with Imicon and Kodak. And then what happened was that they made 3,000 of them, and then Imicon in Copenhagen, the scanner producer, was sold to Hasselblad in Sweden. And Hasselblad apparently said, okay, Imicon, you cannot play with Leica anymore, and that was the end of this digital back. So only 3,000 of them exist. I mean, you can still find them. A lot of people who have these maybe gave up selling them because who wants something like this? It's still possible to find them, and the price is around 3,000 for a camera and a digital back. 3,000 euros or $3,000 depending where you find it. And usually it comes with 1 or 2 batteries. Sometimes you're lucky you get 4 batteries. And the reason why it's very interesting how many batteries you get is because that the battery sits here. I'm just going to take it out. So this is the battery. And it's not that it's super powerful. A normal battery maybe can do 100, 200, sometimes 300 or 400 pictures. The problem is that you cannot get the battery anymore. And you can see it's very, very special. It's not a standard battery. It's made for this whole unit. And Leica don't have them anymore. People who have them don't want to get rid of them. I had 4 batteries, and then there's a facility in Germany I could send them to, a third-party facility that could fix the batteries because they were getting like slow or low on energy, whatever it's called. So I sent them 2 batteries, and I never got them back. So I asked them, like, have you seen my batteries? And they never saw them. So either they didn't arrive or whatever happened. And that's one of the problems you could say with batteries. Is if you send batteries with DHL or UPS or in the mail, they might actually get destroyed or never arrive because batteries are considered dangerous goods. So that's a thing to remember, that if you only have 1 or 2 batteries left and you want them refreshed, well then you better be careful how you ship them and where you ship them. There's also, funny enough, because I was looking before I did this video, I said I'm just going to go see if I can find some batteries before any of you are going to get them. So you can see on eBay there's actually battery or whatever. What they do is that is actually 2 iPhone 4 batteries. They put together and prepare them so you can open this one and you can mount them into this one. And according to another website, that there's a link below the video also to that, according to another website, it's going to give you battery for around 100 photos. That's a little bit less than they had originally, but they do tend to go down in power. The 2 batteries I have here, I think that's the ones that came with this camera. This one have a very low serial number, and it's probably one from the factory in Portugal somehow that it got via somebody to the Leica store Porto, and that's where I got it. So those were 2 good batteries. So the 2 batteries I sent to Germany was the weak ones, and I haven't gotten them back, and I really don't know what to do about it when I run out of battery in this one. Then I'll have to get into trying something. One of the difference between R9 and R8 is that on the R9 you can just press on and off and it will actually do it. On the R8, which I actually prefer the R8 because when you're photographing, for example, Fashion Week and you want to change this wheel, you can do it. You don't need 2 fingers and you don't need a lot of something. But when I turn on this one, then it's going to light up. And what I wanted to show you is that the battery on this one has basically been blinking. Now it doesn't. I charged it a little bit, but this battery was blinking. That is empty, 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 and it's been doing that for like 90 photos. So the whole battery thing is like, okay, you put in a battery, and then you have to test how many shots do I have, because of course if you go out and want to take photos and then you have 4 shots, that's nice to know that you have 4 photos. If you have 100 or 200, you want to know that. So that's you can't really trust this. And I mean, there's a lot of things with old cameras like this that you have to get used to. You put in a battery, you turn on the camera and nothing happens because it takes us 5-10 seconds to wake up or do something. You press a button and then it takes 3 seconds before the screen actually turns off. You press a button and it takes 4 seconds before the screen disappears and stuff like that. So a lot of quirky things, but it's not unusual for this. I mean, I tried with, you take for example like an M9 from 2009. That's a camera that you dig it out again, you haven't used it a long time, you put in an SD card and it doesn't work. And that's because you have to remember that the Leica M9 can only go to 16 gigabyte cards. So any bigger cards, the camera doesn't know what it is. It never seen one of those. Back in 2009, it didn't exist. And speaking of SD cards, this one is also very special. This one have a 2 gigabyte SD card here, and it's a non-SDHC. And basically the only card that will work in this unit is 2 and 4 gigabyte non-SDHC. So you cannot just go online and order 2 gigabyte or 4 gigabyte. You have to see that it's a non-SDHC, because else the camera doesn't know what it is. 2 gigabyte is perfect. And I mean, they're so cheap now, you can just order a stack of them from B&H or somewhere, and then you have cards forever. The battery, that is the issue. So let's just talk about image quality for a moment, because back when the digital back came out, of course there was Lightroom, and you could import the pictures into Lightroom. And the great thing about Lightroom is a workflow tool. So it means you import 100 photos, you go through them, you mark this one, this one, this one, and you edit them. And you can even copy paste the edits you did, so you can get work done fast. The problem was that it didn't look that amazing. So at that point, the Imacon software, FlexColor, that they used for the scanners, would also work for the files here. You had to go put them into an FFF format and stuff like this, very cumbersome. But what I would do is I would select and say, okay, this portrait here, I want it to sing. So this is the one that this file I'm going to import into FlexColor, and then I would tweak it there, or basically just the way that it went through FlexColor would clean it up and make the colors look beautiful and make everything jump at you. And then I would save it as a TIFF. And the reason I wouldn't use FlexColor for everything is that it's just you can work at one file at a time, and it just takes forever, and it really took a long time to open up. You can't really use FlexColor anymore. You can still download it from the website. Now it's Hasselblad's website. You can download the software. The problem is just it doesn't work with the current Mac computers. So if you want to work with these files, you have to downgrade your system, or you have to find an older MacBook or older Mac computer that have an older system that can still run FlexColor, and then you have that. I actually do have a computer like that connected to my Imacon scanner, but I don't really use it anymore. What I did with these files is I imported them into Capture One Pro, and that's version 20 now it's called, and it actually looks amazing. So I wouldn't go around. Capture One have actually made a profile for this camera, even it's like an old camera, and they didn't start including Leica profiles of Leica cameras till like a few years ago. They actually went all the way back and took all the old Leica cameras, including this digital back. So the edit you get in Capture One is actually satisfactory. It actually looks really good. And just for the fun of it, I imported also these files today into Lightroom. And Lightroom will import the file, and then when you want to crop it and want to edit it, it says I cannot find the file. And the file is there, and you can actually export the file from Lightroom, but you can't edit it. So somehow Lightroom doesn't recognize it. You could say it doesn't really matter because Lightroom is not great to edit those photos. I never was great to edit those photos anyways. Doesn't matter. One of the advantages with this camera is that the photos looks amazing from the moment you import them. You usually don't have to touch a lot. So let's just talk about image quality. So I mean, you can see the pictures here in this video. That is a pretty good camera. There's not really much reason to try to do a comparison, but nevertheless, I did a comparison between the DMR and the new Leica SL2 with 47 megapixels. So here we have a CCD sensor, picture 10 megapixels, and we'll just zoom in here for the fun of it and see how the things look. And one of the things that is really great about the DMR and CCD and also Leica lenses is the ability to make things look alive. You look at like the leather here, it looks really, you can feel the texture even here, this paper plastic on the frame here. So that's something that you could say the CCD sensor, the Leica DMR, the files are almost ready when you take them out of the camera. And also look at the hat here, it's amazing how detailed it looks. Then I'm going to jump, keep your eye on this one, now I'm going to jump straight to the SL, and it looks like this. And you can see it's more cold and blue. The colors are a little bit off, it needs some warmth, which is, you could say, is what the CCD and the DMR has with the Kodak tuned sensor. The Imacon have fine-tuned it also. So this one is a little bit different, and that is a general thing with the Leica SL2, that I think it needs fine-tuning from the firmware. It has too much blue in it, and it's one thing also I have actually played with now that I have the chance here. Let me just show you. So here we have, this is what 47 megapixel looks like, and if you notice, you will see that actually the CCD sensors and DMR actually have more clarity. So even this one have more megapixel, the CCD have more clarity. And so just for the fun of it, I'll make it available later from my website. I made a fine tune, I made a profile of the SL here. I said I like this color, I'm going to jump to the CCD from the DMR. It's like this. I like this look, it is so nice and soft and friendly. This I don't like, so I actually made a profile so I can apply this to the SL2 so it would look like this. And you can see this is the refined with my preset SL2 47 megapixel, and then the CCD from the DMR. One thing I haven't checked with this new R9 with digital back that I just assembled is how does it focus. These things, like anything mechanical, can go out of focus. And I mean, if you look at it like you mount a digital back where the film used to be, and then it's like, if it's just a little bit off, then it's not going to be there. These ones you used to be able to send them into Leica and they would adjust the focus on them. You might be able to find somebody who can who can handle this. I haven't tried to do it. The thing to know is that if the focus goes out here, you could say, well, you can take it apart, dismount it, and then mount it again and see maybe that works better. But the thing is that when you focus with this one, it's actually very easy to focus. You would think it's difficult because it doesn't have EF and stuff, but the viewfinder is extremely clear. It's really bright, and you have the matte screen with the center in the middle, so you can really see when it focuses. And somehow it's almost like a miracle, you just really nailed the focus. That's what I always did with this one. I always nailed the focus, even so many things could go wrong. So if the focus is off, you can take the back off and you can put it back on and see if that helps. More likely where you would get results is you can go in here and you have the mirror can actually be out of placement. So if the mirror is not sitting straight, then the distance you see is not going to be correct. It can also be the matte screen. If the matte screen is a little bit moved just a tiny bit, then the focus is going to not be the actual focus that the sensor sees. So that's the three factors, is like where does the sensor sit, where does the matte screen sit, and how does the mirror sit. That's the three elements that can go off in a mechanical camera. That's the three things you would adjust. And you can say you can adjust the matte screen yourself, and you can adjust the mirror. You can try and see if you can find anything to clean up or something in there. You could say the sensor itself, start moving it around with a screwdriver or something like that. I wouldn't do it. It sits already very precise, but I know that's one of the things that Leica did. They had a way to adjust the sensor that could measure if the plane is straight, so it's not tilting to one side or something like that. Not that would happen a lot, but it is a camera that you could say that you use it a lot. If you look at this baby, you can see this has been through war and everything. So that's the thing with focus, is just it usually works, and if it doesn't, then you have to fix it. The last thing I think I will say about this camera is that when you get old cameras, there's a lot of things that is not like it used to be. And what I usually do, because I had somebody who wrote to me the other day, he had bought a Leica SL, which is a camera from '64, and it's extremely simple camera, but still this camera is kind of advanced for the period, and it does have different things that you don't know what is. What I usually do is I'll find the manual and download it to my iPhone, iPad, computer, and whatever. So when I'm out in the field somewhere and something doesn't work, or I wonder about something, I can actually look it up. I'm not going to carry around the manual that came with the camera, but I'll put that on my computer. And if we just look at this funny thing here, you actually have a release button here, then you have one here, and you actually also have one here. And the thing that sits here is that you can actually lock it so it doesn't go off by accident. Then it has here like a, believe it or not, it has a FireWire port and FireWire cables. You're never going to use that. You just take out the SD card. You could, with this one, you could actually connect it to a computer. Back when, I think with Flex Color, and you could shoot the camera from the computer in the studio, for example. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. Here you have some flash connection behind this one. Then it has some stuff here if the mirror goes up with flash, the first or second shot. Here you can test the depth of field with this one. So it just presses whatever the aperture is, it presses it to that. Here is the R button for rewind of film, and it's also if you want to do a double exposure. I don't think that actually works on digital, but in film you would press this one down and you could shoot 3 or 4 pictures on the same picture frame on the film and do multi-exposure. This is the rewind that you don't really need for the digital. And you have here plus and minus exposure you can use. And then you have here a diopter here that you can adjust this one for your eyesight. And then you have the menu and the buttons here in the back that maybe is very similar to actually the M8 and also other digital cameras. And then you have the interesting things on this one. You have down here that you turn this button here to set the white balance. You can change the resolution. It should always be RAW. This one, when it came, it was set to JPEG. but it should be raw, and a 2 GB card will give you 96 pictures. It's kind of cool compared to film. It's not cool compared to modern cameras where you can put 2,000 pictures on a card. We just have extra cards. And then you can have the compression, and you can set the ISO. And the ISO with this camera should be 100 ISO. That's the base ISO of the sensor. It looks amazing, beautiful. You can go 200, you can go 400. 200 is still okay if you have to. 400, you get on the edge of what looks good. 800 is just, it doesn't look good, so forget about it. Then it has a special thing here, moire, and that is, moire is when you photograph, for example, a dress with lots of stripes on it, then you get this confusing pattern. A lot of cameras have a moire filler in front of the sensor, so it kind of blurs everything, but it blurs everything. So that also blurs skin and stuff, but then you avoid those patterns. This one have a moire filler you can turn on and off because the sensor doesn't have this blur filler in front of it. Cool little detail, never used it. And then you can also set users here, and you can set self timer if you should ever want to do a selfie with this camera. And that's it. And then they even have a button here so you can turn on light and display if you work at night. It sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a good thing. I've been at really dark fashion shows and stuff like that where I needed to see what does my display say. And that's basically it. Of course, there's lots of other funny buttons and things on this camera. Yeah, there's here you can change the exposure to plus, a half, a 1. And you can go single and continuous for the motor winder and stuff like that. And you can also close for I think it's over here. Yeah, you can close for the viewfinder here. So if you're doing night shots, then there's no light coming in through here, so you don't get light that shouldn't be there. Stuff like that. This is a high-end film camera from back in the 90s, so this have everything and it's made to last forever, and you could say it will. The only problem is how long can we get SD cards and batteries for this one. That's basically the only thing that determines how long is this gonna stay alive. That's all I had to say about this camera. It's amazing. I have 2 of them and I really like to go and use them again. And maybe you're already now on eBay and everywhere else trying to look for one. There's not a lot of them in circulation. I would say if you want to get one, I would put an ad on the Leica user forum or Facebook or somewhere else and say, hey, does anybody have a functioning Leica digital bag with camera and maybe some lenses I can buy, and see what it comes up with. I would expect that a camera with a digital bag would be in the area of $2,000, $3,000, maybe sometimes $4,000. That's probably the range of it. I think they cost like $4,000 or $5,000 when they came out. That's all I had to say. If you go below the video here, there's a link to the article about this camera and sample photos on my website. There's also a link to a free webinar, and there's a link to my mailing list. So you sign up, you get a free ebook. And of course you can make comments, and I would love to hear your take on this camera. Till I see you next time, thank you for watching, and remember to always wear a camera.